Sir, I would request all of you to mute yourself till I come to you.
Yeah, Dawadu.
My name is Anisha Nair Dhawan. A day earlier, we heard from industry leaders and experts about how crucial it is to have high efficiency levels from thermal power plants for them to remain relevant in India's future energy mix. We also had insightful presentations on important technical issues like heat rate modeling, optimizing wall blowing, and how to tweak operating parameters to get the best outcome to reduce heat rate. Now, we are grateful to our speakers who answered so many questions, and we have richly benefited from the wealth of their experience. Now, this platform is an intuitive one, so I would encourage all delegates to use it to the maximum and keep it interactive. You can meet your peers, you can ask questions, don't hold yourself back. If you face any bandwidth issue, version to continue enjoying uninterrupted virtual conference experience. I would request all our speakers and our delegates to please keep their mics on mute. Please unmute yourself once we come to you. Now, if you haven't already done it so far, make sure you sign up to the Fly Ash Utilization Summit coming up in April in Goa. It's a great opportunity for you to catch get up to speed with your peers and understand the latest industry trends. Later in the evening, we also have a grand finale, the National Efficiency Awards 2021, to honor and reward those generators and solution providers who made an exemplary effort to reduce heat rate of thermal power plants. So let's begin, and we are starting with a panel discussion today on reduction in heat rate contributing in reduction of generation cost and increasing the operating margin of power generation companies. Now, even without regulatory considerations, there are good reasons for virtually every coal-fired power plant to improve its heat rate, mainly because of better efficiency, which directly translates into hard dollars saved, mainly because lower heat rate can significantly lower your fuel consumption and thus lower your cost. The net heat rate of thermal power plants has a wide bandwidth because of fuel quality, design, and the vintage of the plant, technology adoption, O&M practices, and even climatic conditions. Now, many plants appear to be running at efficiencies significantly below what they were built for or they were designed for, partly because of age-related deterioration, insufficient maintenance, and changes in fuel quality. So what are TPPs doing to reduce heat rate, and have the steps that they've taken paid off in terms of bottom line? So let's welcome our next set of speakers who will talk about the maths of efficiency. Please welcome Mr. R.B. Mathur, President, Virginia Mining Resources, and Professor Rangan Banerjee, the Head of Department Energy Science and Engineering at IIT Mumbai. We'll soon be joined by Mr. R.B. Shahi, former Secretary of Ministry of Power as well. But I welcome both of you to this panel discussion. And I'll hand it over to you to discuss how more efficient plants which have lower heat rate are also more profitable. So Professor Banerjee, I'd request you to go first. Professor Banerjee, you have to unmute yourself. Sorry, I had requested you to mute yourself, but please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think we need to. So good morning, and it's a privilege for me to be here with all the power professionals and people who have so much of experience in actually running these plants. I think one of the things that I would like to flag in my initial remarks is that the coal sector is in a deep transition, and we need to recognize some of the overall drivers of this transition. So with the problems of climate change and the CO2 footprint of the power plants that we are talking of, and the fact that most renewables are must-runs, what happens is that we are not just looking at the net heat rate in terms of the design heat rate, but we are also looking at operating many times at significant amount of part loads. And for the plant, of course, directly, if you look at an efficiency improvement, if you look at reduction of the auxiliaries, and you can reduce the heat rate, it will directly translate to a reduction in your operating costs. But having said that, it's also important to extend the amount of time that we can run the plant. And this, I think, in addition to this, we should think in terms of having a flexibility so that we can reduce the minimum load at which we can run the plant. We can ramp up and ramp down, because the characteristics of the system, of the power system, and the demands from the power system are now different. And we need to realize that, so that we talk about the overall improvement in our operating efficiency, and that is the maximum that we can see that we operate our plant, so that our capital gets distributed over a wider range. So I would just say that apart from the design heat rate, we should also look at the part load and also look at extending this. We should understand that now, depending on the age of the plant and the vintage and the characteristics, the plant may not be operating at as per the design value. And so we may need to create some kind of model to understand what is the actual performance of the plant and how it responds to changes in the coal quality, how it responds to the different kinds of parameters. And at different points of time, we should also do detailed energy audits to see what are the performance and how we can improve this. So I will just stop here with these opening remarks, and I will then listen to Mr. Mathur and then come back with some more specifics. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Mathur.
Anisha, you need to unmute yourself. You forgot to unmute yourself.
Mr. Mathur,
is it okay now? Is it okay?
Yes, sir. It's fine.
So my greetings and very best wishes to organizers and participants. I am really grateful. Anisha, my association with Mission Energy is quite long, and I am really happy that you have been conducting these sessions. Yesterday also I heard you. By now you must have become an expert on this heat rate. So you see, the heat rate is a very important subject, and it is going to have an impact on the future of the coal-based power generation. I am basically a man from the coal sector, having served 39 years in coal active life, 11 years as director and chairman of various coal companies, and also including Singareni down south also I work. And I am really happy that R.B. Shahi will also be coming, and it will be a great pleasure to hear him. Now, heat rate, as I understand, Professor Rangan Banerjee can correct me, as I understand, is a measure of efficiency of a power project, which converts a fuel, it may be coal or any gas or any other thing, into heat and thereafter into electricity. In coal-based power projects, the heat rate decides the coal requirement. Professor Rangan Banerjee spoke about it. As per the Ministry of Power Directive, now if you see the legal side, gross station heat rate for TAF thermal power stations commissioned before 1/4/2009 has been specified at 2400 kilocal per kWh. However, through a government order issued in April 2019, government has put on a ceiling of 2600 kilocal per kWh. Now, you see, belonging to the coal ban, I would like to submit that India has got 344 billion tons of coal reserve, and out of which you can say that about 92% of this coal is of power coal type, that is non-coking coal variety. We call it power coal. And this power coal which we have, and Professor Rangan Banerjee must be knowing, has got an ash percentage of 35% to 42%. And there are identified 20 major coal fields in India. And India has got the third largest coal reserve in the world. Now you see, the God has been so kind to give coal to our country. And one good thing, Professor, I would like to tell you that our coal has got less sulfur compared to the sulfur of South Africa or any other country. If you take, so God has been kind. Now, ideal heat rate should be about 2200 kilocal per unit, which means that only zero point 0.7 kg of coal should yield about 1 kilowatt of power. But we have powerhouses using as much as 1.1 kg of coal. And this reckless burning of poor quality of coal, having low thermal efficiency, this vitiates the environment. Hence, station heat rate is of prime importance, Disha, and must be kept under check. The earlier decade-old classification of coal, which was 7 grades, Professor, has been now converted to 17 grades. But what is really uh, consumed in powerhouses is from G13 to G17. You see, no, not so G13, 14, 15, not 17. So G13, 14, 15. Now we have to fulfill our national commitments. And what are our national? Being a very important member of this Paris Agreement, we have signed a Paris Agreement which demands that we should reduce emission of greenhouse gases by 30 to 35% by 2030. Now you see, how do we reduce the greenhouse gases? And having signed the agreement, we can't go back and say no, we can't do it. So we have to do it, and this can happen only if we fix a net heat rate for thermal power plants and provide coal linkage as per sanctioned and approved heat rate only. You see, now somebody will say, I would burn to 1.2 kg. I was director of Singareni Collieries, and we had a Ramakunda thermal power station in Singareni command area. So you're one of the oldest. You see, I will come back to that. What should happen to these old powerhouses? Now coming to coal, India produced 730 million tons of coal in 2019-20 and 50 million tons of lignite, which is also form of coal. And we have to produce 1 billion tons of coal by 23-24. Our honorable minister says produce 1,000 million, then I will be happy. So we have to make our minister happy. So that is the point, and we are on that route. And power generation for supply of to each well. We have to ensure that power gets going to each well, village, and each house. Now, despite increase in power production, the use of coal shall come down now systematically because of our commitment. In 2019, sir, the weak coal contributed 72% of power generation. In 2023, we will reduce it to 68%. In 2030, we will reduce to 56%. In 2040, it will come down to 42%. But coal will continue to remain a major contributor to national energy basket. It produces the cheapest power. We asked the professor if I'm wrong. Despite the fact that coal is a highly taxed commodity, it is such a highly taxed commodity. I have got a paper cutting. I can show you the proof. 25,000 crores of tax on coal produced in India. So, and I can also tell you that coal produced is for 700 so coal costing 700 rupees, and by the time it reaches Gujarat, it becomes 2,500 rupees. So those
There's a problem with the network.
Let's be a little patient. I think we'll get Mr. Mathur back, and we'll request him to move to the low bandwidth, low HD the low definition version, which allows for bandwidth issues. Let's just give him a couple of minutes. Till he comes back, Professor Ranjan, would you like to say something on the maths that Mr. Mathur was talking about? The regulatory conditions and what is expected of power generators by the government.
Yes, so I think the expectations from the power generators is changing, and we are also seeing that this issue of net heat rate, when we look at it, there are certain things based on the technology. So if you're looking at the new plants, if you're looking at supercritical plants, you can anyway have a design heat rate which is much lower. The challenge is when you have an existing plant, which even at the design point, the heat rate is set at a particular point. You cannot really improve much beyond that. So the question is, what all can you do in terms of retrofits? And then there is also, I'm sure all of you are aware of it, you are part of, there is this PAT scheme where you can basically look at the performance, benchmark it, and then you get, you are supposed to improve your performance over time, and you get some credits for that. So there are a number of things that many plants have done, and I think most of you would be already aware of this, and you have looked at experience sharing. In terms of reducing the auxiliary consumption, one is you can look at putting variable frequency drives on all the systems where you're looking at your, if you look at the FD or the ID fan or the pumps, and the cooling water circuit. So those are some of the things that can be done. There are also many different innovations that people have tried, including taking the low grade exhaust flue gas temperatures and utilizing it. And I think this has been done. I saw that there was an example which is there in NTPC Ramagundam, where a vapor absorption machine has been taken, and you've basically taken the flue gases from 150 degrees and exhausted it at 110, and you get a cooling almost about 100 tons of refrigeration. The capital cost of this investment is about 1 crore and the payback of about 7 years. And if you look at, there is a lot of information already available in the public domain on different kinds of retrofits that have been done by different plants within India as well as globally. And I think these are some of the things that one can look at. In terms of operation, the issues are that often the impact of different things is a combination of what is there in the technology, the way your boiler is configured, the way your boiler turbine, and so one of the things which people have been doing is we are doing detailed sort of CFD models of the boiler to see the impact of different flow characteristics and airflow, and with the sensors as well as with the model, then you can use, people are using some kind of empirical machine learning and AI tools to try and see and improve the control in a real-time basis. So that's another aspect one can think of. The other thing which has been tried, is being talked about globally, is to try and co-fire coal with biomass, and this has been done to a small extent by some of our plants. I think in NTPC about 10% of biomass has been added. This actually does increase the costs a little, but overall it reduces the CO2 impact. And so that's another set of things which has been done. There have been attempts to do solar hybrid, solar thermal and hybridization. and this again can reduce the CO2. So I think addition to your heat rate, we should also be looking at the carbon dioxide footprint of the power plant, and we should try to see what we can do to improve. Traditionally, coal plants are run as base load plants, and so they're supposed to be running at fixed loads. We prefer them to run near the design value. But the way we are now seeing the grid emerging, we are going to have a large amount of renewables, and that variable renewables fluctuates, and sometimes the dispatcher will tell the coal plant to back down. Now the question is, if we back down but we can maintain it so that we don't start from a cold start, the overall cost effectiveness of our plant would be better. And this is something where again we can think in terms of whether we can incorporate thermal storage in it. So in the case of coal, I think the challenge is very severe because it is basically a question of survival, and there is a view, in my opinion, in the next 20-30 years, we have to continue with coal-based power, but still we have to realize that our coal-based power should meet for FGD units to be put, or the desulfurization the technology which is to be added, that also adds 50-60 paisa per unit to your generation costs, and this is one of the reasons why it's not being sort of installed. Everything has a cost component to it, and of course there is a benefit which we can think of. Carbon capture and storage has been tried in a few demo plants globally, but currently they're still quite costly. And so I think the point is we must try to see that we take as many measures as are possible and make retrofit so that we can improve the efficiency of operation. We try and operate with the lowest possible heat rate that our plant can operate. And of course, there are certain things that you can do through improved housekeeping, improved operation, improved control. The second thing is where you make investments and you make retrofits. And there are a whole host of different retrofits, and the cost effectiveness of these retrofits. So in addition to that, so basically we are talking of energy efficiency, audits, retrofits. We are also talking in terms of hybridization with possible renewables. And the third thing is we try and see if we can improve the flexibility so that the plant can meet the requirements of the grid. So it is dispatched more and the PLF of the plant is actually higher. If you see in the country, because of the high amount of renewables which are coming in, which are must runs, the average PLF of coal-based power has gone down to some 55-56%, which means a large number of plants are actually operating in even much lower PLFs, and this is resulting in NPAs and several other issues. So I will stop here and pass it back to Anisha.
Right. We are waiting for Mr. Bathur to rejoin us, but we have Mr. Narendra Wadhwa, Senior Vice President, Operations Services, Bajaj Energy, joining us on the stage as well. Mr. Wadhwa, I'd request you to unmute yourself and start your camera, and tell us from the real life perspective on what companies have to think about in terms of the cost of bringing the capital changes versus the benefit of improved bottom line. What has been your experience? Mr. Wadhwa, if you've heard me, I request you to please start your camera and unmute yourself. Okay, I'm not. Let's just give Mr. Wadhwa a little time to come in and make his comments. Okay. In the interim, I think we'll take a question which is coming for you, Professor Banerjee. We have Mr. Sankule who is joining us on the stage. Mr. Sankule, go ahead and please ask your question to Mr. Banerjee, to Professor Banerjee.
Sir, actually, what happened? If you use VFD for most of the for most of the auxiliaries, then what will happen? The harmonics will in the system will be increasing in the system. See, due to which what happened? The unit system system will behave due to spurious signals. So how it will be done?
Professor Ranjan, please unmute yourself.
That is actually a valid question. So typically what happens is there are power electronic solutions. One can, depending on the type of VFD and the type of system which you have, one can actually model and see what kind of harmonics will be there, and we can have appropriate solutions for that. And this is reasonably well documented. Many of the VFDs which are there already come with the appropriate filters, but otherwise what happens is that in your system, when you look at your distribution network and you look at the kinds of harmonics, there are actually hardware solutions for that. So this can be seen. It will of course change as depending on the kind of loading that you have, but one can actually, there are technical solutions to that. So the question is whether you are actually facing that problem, or you are perceiving that if you're doing this. But this is something which can be addressed, and it is addressed also in literature, and there are actually solutions to this.
Sir, what I think, if in place of VFD, whether any other type of drive is available, which we can use, the advantage of VFD will be taken, and also this harmonics problem can be resolved. So whether there is any technical development is there?
Yeah, there are multiple, again, depending on the type of, so the thing is that if you know that you're going to operate at 2 or 3 speeds only, then you can have a different kind of solution. Variable frequency drives gives you the entire range. So that is usually what people prefer, because it gives you a lot of operating flexibility. And that is what is commonly being used also. So, but this problem that you have talked of harmonics is well documented in literature, as well as solutions are there that would need some kind of investment. And offline, I can probably connect you with other colleagues who can give you more technical details in terms of, there are power electronic solutions for these.
Right, Mr. Badwa, can you hear me? So would you like to come in and tell us about your experience in, efficiency, and what it means in terms of cost, and then how does it translate to when it comes to bottom line? If you can hear me, I request you to please unmute yourself and start your camera as well.
Mr. Mathur has also rejoined.
Mr. Mathur, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you, but I'm very sorry that the electricity went off in my house. You see, there was no power and no Wi-Fi. So I was totally helpless. What to do? Huh? Can I go ahead and complete?
Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I'm really, my apologies to all of you. Please. It was not in. Now, coming back to station heat thread, sir, my humble suggestion is that why use raw coal? There are alternatives like in situ coal gasification. You need not mine the coal, but you can gasify underground. Then we have got a lot of coal bed methane, and which have not been tapped so far. Almost 31,000 crores worth of investment is planned for harnessing these resources. The concept of station heat rate, just a minute, which is coal-based now, will undergo a change and get converted to coal-based gas. and underground coal gasification, about which our Honorable Prime Minister has also talked in New York, if you remember. In NCR, there is a powerhouse which is Dadri, and we have one speaker from Dadri. Mm. The net heat rate is really very ideal. It has got four numbers of 210 megawatt and two numbers of 490 megawatt sets, and all emissions are much less and within control, and within a controlled heat rate by use of washed coal. Then I think Harsha belongs to this great thermal power station. Now, unfortunately for us, a retrograde step has been taken recently to permit use of run-of-mine coal containing more than 34% ash in powerhouses which are located at more than 500 kilometers. Earlier, it was stipulated that powerhouses located beyond 500 kilometers will use less than 34% ash coal. But now government has said, okay, go ahead, use even more than 35%. We have not been able to understand the logic of this step, and of course we are persuading, we are taken up with the government, and uh, Dr. Shai will be coming, and he has been the ex-power secretary. He will be able to throw some light. Now, commitments under Paris Agreement, India has to wash 100% coal. If we have to, you see, my humble views are that if we have to really fulfill our commitments under Paris, then we have to wash. And why, you see, all over the world coal is washed, but it is in India only that we are, you see, acclimatized to use of run-of-mine coal. Well, whatever comes, you see, in good old days, whatever we used to give, because coal was in demand, so whatever Mr. Mathur supplied was acceptable. So that was the situation. So, but now you see things are changing. Now, very recently, on 4th of February 2021, our coal minister has advised Coal India to learn new things. He said that don't remain in the old domain. The future of coal lies in upgradation of quality by beneficiation, thereby achieving optimum heat rate. Then selective mining technology. Yesterday, one Mr. Reddy had talked about it. Use of surface miners. They can that can separate the stones during the process of mining itself, and it is required to be encouraged. When I was Singareni director, we used to supply crushed coal to Ramagundam TPS. Crushed coal and coal which was uh, mined by a theory process which is called in-pit crushing and conveying. We used to crush the coal beside the mine and bring good quality coal. But unfortunately, NTPC refused to pay extra for all this effort, and we had to supply. Then another thing has been happening in our country, this commercial mining, which is now being highly promoted by Ministry of Coal, and we have got 75 coal blocks now available uh, for commercial mining. Now, this commercial mining, you see, conditions are highly lucrative, and those who will come forward to take this commercial mining, they can produce any good quality of coal. Now, take for example NTPC. NTPC, a power producer. Now, it is going to become a mini coal India. They are going to produce coal, and they will say, you see, then they can't blame Coal India that you are giving bad coal. Their own mine, their own power generation. Now, I am now summarizing, and I have got only 7 points to summarize. And washing of coal should become mandatory if we really wish to reduce emissions by 30 to 35% by 2030. Why should it not become mandatory? Then cost of power generation should be reduced by reducing taxes on coal. As I said, 25,000 crores of rupees, which is ultimately paid by the consumer, and very high. Then railway freight is one of the highest in the world. You will be surprised. You see, somebody told me emphatically, okay, look, Mr. Mathur, the railway freight on coal in India is the highest in the world. I didn't believe. He said, no, they are telling you. You see, and you see the railway freight earned by railways on coal goes to compensate our passenger traffic. You see the beauty of where from the money comes. money comes from coal, and we really enjoy traveling. Well, I can go to Bilaspur in 500 rupees, second class. So see 1300 kilometers in 500 rupees. Then India has got very little reserves of oil and gas. We have to seriously think of making institute coal gasification and make it a success. Why mine coal? You use gas. Then this is older coal plants are to be retired as they are fully depreciated, and coal can be diverted to good plants. A station heated in such powerhouses is as high as 3,750 kilocal against 2,400 kilocal stipulated. Then the critical and critical technologies, you see, the power producers can talk better. They are to be encouraged, and those technology are being encouraged. And then government order, as I said, that use of less than 34% ash in 500 plus 500 kilometer power station, it must be restored. Then commercial mining, 75 coal blocks are on anvil today, and you can get the best coal block. If you come to me, then I can advise the power producers which are the really good coal blocks in Mahanadi coal field, in what you call Chhattisgarh, in Jharkhand. You see, there are good coal blocks. Still, we have the huge reserves of coal, and when commercial mining comes for coal and for power, for use of power, for use in power projects, you see, this blame game will stop. You mine good coal, you have the best possible heat rate. So with these words, Professor, and again my apologies to you for this break, and my best wishes to all of you. And Disha, thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Mathur, for your very important points, 7 of them. Mr. Badpa is also with us. So, Mr. Badpa, I would request you to give us your inputs on, how efficiencies, translate into bottom lines from the real world perspective and the challenges that you face.
Yeah, good morning. First of all, thank you, Mission Energy, for giving me opportunity to speak on this. See, as we all of know that Government of India has put a strong initiative to move on to the renewables, and they have set up a target of in the renewable sector. They have set up a target of around 4,30,000 to 4,30,000 to 4,50,000 gigawatt by the renewable, out of which the solar is around 2,80,000 and wind is around 1,50,000 megawatt. So despite of this capacity addition, we will see that almost 10 years down the line, we will be meeting our demand by the coal-based thermal power plants or coal-based power plants by 50%. More than 50% of the generation will be done by the coal-based power plants. The PLF of the coal-based stations which is around 55 to 60. Overall, India PLF is in the range of 55 to 60%. That PLF is going to remain the same at the year end of the 2029-30. Means we will be coal-based plants. If we achieve the target capacity of our renewable capacity, then also the coal-based power plants are required to operate at the PLF of annual PLF of 55 to 60%. And in this, the advantage will be for those coal-based power plants which are near to the fields, means their cost, which near to the coal fields, means their cost of the generation is low. The challenge for the plants which are far from the mines and their cost of generation is high, really there will be a challenge for them, and they have to reduce the cost of generations by putting some extra efforts, maybe like improving the efficiencies by doing the retrofits or the GC improvement of the GCP coal, so that their cost of generation becomes less and they become competitive. I have just worked out made one working by the taking the 4%, even the less CAGR percentage, 4% CAGR growth I have taken, and I have worked out the one scene just for my personal understanding that by 3940, if I take the CAGR of 4% from 2930 to 3940, then also the generation required to meet the demand is around 3662 gigawatt, means around 3700 billion unit. There will be demand.
Mr.
And
Bhatta,
this,
would it be possible for you to turn your camera on, because on our recordings it goes as a black screen.
okay, sure. Yeah. So to meet this demand of 3700 gigawatt, we need to generate from coal. And if we take a scene that there is no coal, which is not at possible, that already honorable speakers have said that they, without coal we can't survive. So I was working out this, that the shortfall of the peak demand, shortfall in the peak demand, if there is no coal, it is around 2 lakh gigawatt. Even if I take the battery storage solar megawatts from 27,000, which is projected by the CA, to 50,000 megawatt. So if I take the 50,000 megawatt storage capacity, still also there will be a shortfall in the peak demand by approximately 2 lakh megawatt. So I mean to say that coal is going to stay maybe another 25-30 years, maybe 40 years. So our main target should be to improve the efficiency. And of course, when we talk about the retirement of the older units and the install capacity addition by the ultra supercritical and supercritical, but there also again challenge will be this: the most of the time these ultra supercritical units and the supercritical units, they will be running at lesser load, and they will ultra supercritical units of 800 megawatt or 660 megawatts, or the smaller units which can operate at 100% load. But again, those smaller units should have the more efficiency. Or should I design my turbines in such like that they are operating, they are giving their best heat rate maybe at 50%, 60%, especially for those plants which will be required to operate at lesser loads during the most of the day. So that's
Right.
all I wanted to say about this.
Thank you so much for your inputs, Mr. Bhatta. We have Mr. Sameer Pandap. He is Head Performance and Efficiency of Methuen Power Limited, joining us from Dhanbad. He has a question. So, Mr. Sameer, go ahead, ask a question, and please turn on your camera.
Very good morning to all the speakers and all the learned person, and good morning to Ms. Anisha. So my request to Professor Banerjee on the perspective of the generation mix. He was talking about the generation mix, thermal plus solar and all that. So do you think that the government should have some policy for optimizing the heat rate as well as the PLF of a generating company by doing generation mix as a compulsion or like a regulatory manner? My second question would be to understand, by lowering ECR energy charge, we are increasing PLF of a station. So by doing this, we are maintaining poor quality, or we are bringing poor quality of coal, which adversely affects the equipments and life of the critical equipments. So how we are seeing that the lower ECR in RRS SCD scheme would give us a very good opportunity in future also, in perspective of the life cycle cost assessment, if we can understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think to both questions. Can I, Anisha, can I try to answer that? Both? Yeah, so
Yes, please go ahead.
yeah, so I think both questions are relevant, important, and both are difficult to answer. So let me start with the first one. If we think in terms of the generation mix, and I think this is something all of you who are in the audience are quite familiar with, the classical power generation mix has been always talking of hydro and thermal. We're talking of hydrothermal scheduling, and we are looking at how do we balance the thermal is being used as the base load and hydro was being used to meet the peak of peaks. And over the period, basically what has happened is in the 70s and 80s, we had a significant amount of hydro in our mix, around 40%. That's been coming down. And now it's just about 11%. So the ability to sort of meet these loads is relatively less. Now, coupled on this, we have now solar photovoltaics and wind. And initially we started with wind coming in a big way. Now solar PV is catching up. We almost have, I think the numbers keep changing month by month, but it's like 80,000 megawatts. In terms of installed capacity, it's more than 20%. In terms of generation, it's about 10%. So what does this mean? This means that we have now a lot of variable renewables in the mix. The way the power system will operate will be different. And if the mix has a large amount of solar, what will happen is that solar has a very predictable in the morning when it starts, from 7 o'clock, it starts ramping up. And then in the evening, it starts ramping down. So suddenly you will have this thing where in the grid, a certain amount will come in largely during, and your now earlier the peak was in the night. Now what will happen is the off-peak region, because in the during the daytime you're going to have a lot of power, and when the solar kicks in, that is when we will have to back down our power plants. When it comes back in the evenings, when you have and this is where people have talked in California about the net load, which looks like a duck curve. And so to the mix which is being thought of, we have committed in Paris that we will have 40% of non-fossil based power by installed capacity. And we are well on our way to go for that, because by installed capacity, when you say 40% non-fossil, you add the hydro, you add the nuclear, and then you have basically you have renewables, solar and wind. And so we are on target to do that. But the moment we go beyond 30-40% of solar and renewables by generation, what would happen is in the you will be generating more in the day than you can use, and you have to have storage. The amount of storage that we have in our current supply is very less. So basically the rules of the game are going to change, and with the rules of the game, the way we operate our coal-based power plants has to also change. And that is why I talked about initially the issue of flexibility, so that we can operate our plants not just as base load, but we can also cycle them. And this will mean innovative things in terms of putting storage on to picture, going so that our minimum load, we can have some co-firing, we can have some other things which are there. There are many technologies, and there are many manufacturers also. Siemens has done a number of industrial case studies. IEA has some report. You have a lot of information in the public domain. But the fact is that the coal sector is in transition, and we need to acknowledge that. The second question that you have, well, it's more like a business decision. I think Mr. Mathur and Mr. Wadhwa will have better sort of view on this. I think there is a sort of trade-off. When you look at reducing the cost, we should do that where it doesn't affect the long-term impact on the performance or the life of your equipment. So unfortunately, the long-term impact on life and performance is not very easily quantified. So you need to sort of see or what type of coal and how we can reduce those costs. But I think there is some scope, there is some leeway in terms of operation. But I think apart from just the efficiency, we should also see that our plant is being dispatched so that our PLF is higher. I'm not sure, Mr. Panda, but I completely answered your questions, but they are actually quite difficult questions to answer. So I'll pass it on to Mr. Wadhwa, Mr. Mathur for adding.
Mr. Wadhwa, would you like to add your comments here?
Yeah, I would like to say that yes, definitely the point is valid, the question is valid, but we have to see that when we are talking about the cost of the electricity as well as the cost of the efficiency, so we have to make a balance out of it. Means we are going for a new plant erection. It's now the project cost is coming around maybe 8 to 9 crores per megawatt, and at the same time, if I am doing the retrofit of the plants, and if I can see improve the efficiency, and I can make a trade-off that which will be better. In my personal view, the retrofits will give us quick results, and the efficiency improvement will be there, and the cost of generation will be less. Ultimately, the cost of the energy which is passed to the customer, it is going to be less in the case of the retrofit. But again, environment, and as far as an environment is concerned, then we have to take a decision that we are, as in India, we are able to afford this cost of the new power plants.
Sure. So it's a difficult balance there to make. We have a question coming in. So let's take that question from Mr. Abhinav Trivedi, who's joining us from Raigad. Please go ahead, ask your question. So we cannot hear you, Mr. Trivedi. I'm sorry, Mr. Trivedi. For some reason, we are unable to hear you. Have you muted yourself by any chance? From our end, we don't see you as muted. But could you speak now? I'm sorry, Mr. Trivedi, we are unable to hear you at all.
Maybe he can put the question.
No, that is, we are not able to hear him because he probably might have 2 or 3 mics, and in the settings of his mics, he has to select a proper mic and set it right.
So, Mr. Trivedi, till the time you do that, we still cannot hear you, Mr. Trivedi. Let's do this. Let's take up another question in the interim. And yes, let's see. Mr. Manoj Parsain is there with, I'm giving him the mic to ask his question. Yes, sir. Manoj, sir. So please turn on your camera and go ahead and ask your question.
Very good morning, ma'am. I have just question with the increase in the share of renewables, thermal power plants are coming under stress due to the partial loading, and maintaining the heat rate is becoming a very difficult task, and even maintaining the APC is becoming very difficult for the thermal power plants. How to tackle this? I want to ask from Professor Ranjan, please.
I'm sorry, there's no easy solution to that. The only thing that we can do is we can understand the characteristic of our plant. So I think 2-3 things. One is, see, each plant has its own, based on the history and the way it is operating, it has its own response characteristics. So one way is we can create a model where we see under different loads what is the best possible heat rate that we can do. We can do audits at different kinds of things. The second thing is we should, as I tried to tell you, that we should try to see that we are able to be dispatched more. We can think in terms of thermal storage, and we can think in terms of improving the flexibility. But I think there is no easy answer to your question. Yeah, so I think this is where we need to think in terms of innovation. But we can understand how our plant behaves in practice, and then we can try to modify and see, and then maybe we can have storage so that we can operate it more or less at at better loads. And I think one of the things which Mr. Wadhwa suggested is that we can even think for new plants whether the part load efficiencies should be higher, and that's an interesting kind of suggestion. So that at the design stage itself, something may be possible. Once the plant is already installed, then maybe changing different components, retrofitting, those are also possibilities. Yeah, but this is an issue which I think all thermal power plants are grappling with in the whole world.
Mr. Mathur, would you like to come in on this and give us your input from a real life perspective? Mr. Mathur, I request you to please unmute yourself. Mr. Mathur, we can't hear you. Request you to please unmute yourself.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Anisha, the basic point is that unless you improve the quality of coal, the heat rate will not come down. You see, the consumption of coal per unit of generation has to be brought down. How do we bring down? You see, I'm not going into the boilers and oxygen input and air input. I'm going basically into the coal characteristics. You see, I tell you, when I came to Delhi Vidyut Board, you had two powerhouses. One was Indraprasth and one was Rajghat. Now they are closed now because of age. One was inaugurated by Jawaharlal Nehru and others. And I pleaded with them with folded hands, okay, look here, you are getting coal from Asansol and all the stone is coming. They told me, Mr. Mathur, we have hired you for removing these stones. I said, okay, but I want to suggest that you want to really cut down the cost of electricity in the capital. Why don't you use wash coal? But no, we can't pay extra money for washing. I said, okay, if you don't want to pay extra money for me, I will have to do something. So I got there, you see, the coal linkage changed from Asansol to Mughalsarai. Mughalsarai, we have got northern coalfields. We reduced the distance and they got an advantage of 5 rupees. They said, now it appears to be okay. You have done something tangible. And then we requested northern coalfields to start one of their closed washeries, which was called Bina Washery. They started Bina Washery until today. They took coal for a long time from Bina Washery. So you see, the solution lies in utilizing the resource which God has given you. You see, Professor Rangat Banerjee, a very well-read man, experienced man, my regards to him. You see, sir, my humble submission is this, that why can't we concentrate on in situ coal gasification? We make it, you see, it is in Australia it is there, in the USSR, in Russia it is there, in situ coal gasification. Then you have different ways of improving the coal quality. Washed coal, then you have a mandatory order, mandatory directive that only washed coal will be used. What is going to happen? You see, we are signatory to the Paris Agreement, and that is a sacrosanct thing. And that sacrosanct thing, how this will happen, that there is up to, you see, somebody told me sun always does not shine. Professor Rangat Banerjee, I want to ask you, sun is available only 4 hours in 24 hours, sir. People say, I don't know. You are an expert, tell me. You say that, and wind always does not blow. So when sun is available 4 hours in 24 hours and wind doesn't blow, why not take advantage of coal, sir, which is available in plenty?
That is very logical, Mr. Mathur, and a lot is being done for battery storage and electricity storage as well. We're going over time, so I would request Mr. Mohar Reddy to please go ahead and ask the question. Keep it short so that we wrap up this quickly. Mr. Reddy.
Okay. Good morning to all speakers and participants. Net heat rate, as Mathur sir is directly telling, should start from the mining. We have to dispatch the coal having less ash content, where there is a possibility there through selective mining as well as washing. Moisture content will also influence the caloric value, but okay, we will not talk on that. When coming to the after combustion, emissions issue is there. once you take care of the clean, less ash coal dispatch system, majority will be taken care of. And with qualitative coal, your heat loss through your fly ash as well as bottom ash will be less. Other things, heat loss due to the radiation and other things will be taken care of by the plant practices. This is one, just I would like to put my point. Second point is, we have to appreciate that there is a huge demand is there for the power. India per capita is hardly 1100 units. We all know 1/3 of this thing. To the best of my understanding, strategically, India would like to go up to at least 2000 units per capita consumption. Thereby, huge demand is there for power, while at the same time population is also increasing. When Paris Agreement is done, it does not mean that replacing the coal utilization. Coal utilization form should change. It should be a clean coal, it should be clean technology. In this Paris Agreement also, very strategically, India has agreed for the 40% of its installation capacity. As such, there is some other publication is also there from the ministry that around 850 gigawatts of the installed power should be there. It means around 450 to 475 gigawatts of the coal-based power plants have to come, but with different technology. Naturally, some not subcritical technologies. Now, one minute. Next challenge is
to please wrap it up. We can keep this conversation.
Flexibilization of the coal plants. Flexibilization of the coal plants. I feel in the same supercritical technology or some critical technologies, when flexibilization is required in the same boiler, we should innovate to burn the gas. Right. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Reddy, for your comments. Gas is a good idea, but we don't make our own gas. So those are other issues that come up. But a big thank you to all our speakers who have joined us on stage and discussed very important issues on how efficiency translates into bottom lines and what are the challenges there, be it the distance from the coal mine, be it washing of the coal. A lot of issues are there, and we will keep discussing these issues. And a big thank you to the participants who have been typing in their questions. Just a suggestion, if you have questions, please put them in the question and answer section and not the chat, because there it is easy to organize the questions. We take them to the concerned speaker and then we mark them as answered. So please keep your questions coming in, and our speakers are happy to answer your questions. They have a whole world of experience, and it'll be really good for you to get their wisdom on how things can improve. We're going to take a break now, but when we come back, we have presentations from the real world of how people are managing efficiencies. So please do come back. We'll start again at 11:30. So grab a cup of coffee and come back. We'll see you then.